The ice storm had been raging for 3 days when the alarm started screaming. Dr. Yuna Park looked up from her research notes, her coffee cup frozen halfway to her lips. The red emergency lights painted the walls of Outpost Gamma 7 in bloody shadows. She set down the cup and ran to the main control room, her boots echoing on the metal floor. Lieutenant Teho Kim was already there, his hand resting on the weapon at his hip. His face was tight with worry as he stared at the holographic display floating above the central console. "What is it?" Yuna asked, slightly out of breath. "Heat signatures," Teho said. "Multiple. Moving toward us through the storm." Yuna stepped closer to the display. The ice moon of Velroth 4 was one of the coldest places in the known galaxy. Nothing should be moving out there. The temperature outside was cold enough to freeze blood in seconds. "How many?" she asked. 8, maybe 9. Teho's jaw was tight. "They're big, Yuna, really big." The door behind them opened, and Specialist Ji Wuhan rushed in, still pulling on her medical coat. She was young, only 26, with kind eyes that always seemed to be smiling. But she wasn't smiling now. "I heard the alarm," Jiwoo said. "What's happening?" Before anyone could answer, Commander Sun Ho Choi's voice came through the speakers. He was in the observation tower, watching the storm through reinforced glass. "Everyone stay calm," Sun Ho said. His voice was steady, the voice of a man who had seen many strange things in his 45 years. "I can see them now. They're coming to the main entrance." Yuna felt her heart pound against her ribs. She moved to the observation window and wiped away the frost with her sleeve. Through the swirling white snow, she saw shapes. Massive shapes. They moved like shadows, like ghosts made of muscle and fur. "Oh no," she whispered. She knew what they were. Every xenobiologist in the galaxy knew about them. The Velrani, the great cat beings of the outer systems. Apex predators. Hunters without equal. They stood 3 meters tall and could tear through starship metal with their claws. Every species in the galaxy feared them. And now they were walking toward a tiny human research station. "Battle stations," Teho said, reaching for his weapon. "Wait." Yuna grabbed his arm. "Look at them." "Really look." Teho turned back to the window. The Velrani were closer now. Their fur was silver blue, thick and beautiful, but covered in ice. They moved slowly, too slowly for hunters. And in the center of their group, protected by the larger bodies around it, was something small. A cub. A baby Velrani, no bigger than a large dog. It was limping badly, struggling to keep up with the adults. Even from this distance, Yuna could see its back leg was swollen and twisted wrong. "They're not hunting," Yuna said softly. "They're running. They need help." "They're Velrani," Teho said, his voice hard. "The galactic protocols are clear. Dangerous species. No contact." "They have a hurt child," Jiwoo said. She had moved to stand beside Yuna, her eyes fixed on the limping cub. "We can't just let them freeze out there." The largest Velrani stopped at the outer door. She was huge, easily 3 meters tall, with eyes that glowed like liquid amber. Scars crossed her face and shoulders, marks of many battles won. She looked directly at the observation window, and Yuna felt those ancient eyes meet hers. The creature raised one massive paw and placed it flat against the door. "Not attacking, asking." "That's the matriarch," Yuna said. "The pack leader. She's asking for shelter." "This is insane," Teho muttered. But he didn't draw his weapon. Sun Ho's voice came through the speaker again. "Dr. Park, this is your call. You're the xenobiologist. What do we do?" Yuna closed her eyes. She thought about the protocols, the rules, the 100 reasons why this was a terrible idea. Then she thought about the cub, hurt and cold, struggling through the snow. "Open the door," she said. Yuna, Taiho started. Open the door, she repeated. If we let a child die because we were afraid, we don't deserve to call ourselves human. There was a long moment of silence. Then Sunho spoke, opening out her door. Everyone stay calm and don't make any sudden moves. The door groaned as it opened. Freezing air rushed into the station, carrying snowflakes that sparkled like tiny diamonds. And through the door came the Volrini. They were even more impressive up close. Their fur rippled like water as they moved. Their claws clicked on the metal floor. Their eyes, golden and deep, looked at everything with ancient intelligence. The matriarch entered first. She walked with dignity, her head held high, but Yuna could see the tiredness in her movements. Behind her came the others, 7 adults of various sizes. And in the middle, supported by 2 of the adults, came the cub. Yuna felt her heart break a little. The young one was shaking, its silver fur damp and matted. Its back leg was badly swollen, and with each step, it let out a small cry of pain. The matriarch stopped in front of Yuna. She was so tall that Yuna had to crane her neck to meet her eyes. For a long moment, they just looked at each other. Human and Volrini, 2 species that had never spoken. Then the matriarch made a sound. It was low and rumbling, like distant thunder. She moved aside, revealing the injured cub behind her. She's showing us the child, Jiwoo whispered. She's asking us to help. Yuna nodded slowly. She didn't know the Volrini language. No one did. But some things didn't need words. A mother's fear for her child was the same in every language. We'll help, Yuna said, knowing the matriarch couldn't understand her words. She pressed her hand to her own chest, then gestured to the cub. We'll help your little one. The matriarch watched her for another long moment. Then she made that rumbling sound again and stepped back, giving Yuna access to the cub. Behind her, Taiho let out a long breath. I really hope you know what you're doing, Yuna. Yuna knelt down slowly, carefully, until she was at eye level with the injured cub. Up close, she could see it was a female, with eyes that were more green than gold. The cub looked at her with a mixture of fear and something else. Hope, maybe. It's okay, little one, Yuna said softly. We're going to take care of you. The cub let out a small sound, almost like a question, and somewhere in that moment, something changed. Something that would reshape the galaxy forever. But Yuna didn't know that yet. All she knew was that there was a hurt child in front of her, and she was going to help. The medical bay of Outpost Gamma 7 was small. It was built for 5 humans, not 5 humans and 8 giant cat aliens. But somehow, everyone fit. The Volrini had arranged themselves around the edges of the room. They sat on their haunches like enormous statues, their golden eyes watching every movement the humans made. The matriarch, whom Yuna had started calling Ren in her mind, stood closest to the examination table where the injured cub lay. Jiwoo had tried to approach the cub 3 times now. Each time, the adult Volrini had made low growling sounds that shook the walls. Not attacking, but warning. Stay away from our child. This isn't working, Taiho said quietly. He stood near the door, his hand still close to his weapon. He hadn't drawn it, but he hadn't relaxed either. They won't let us touch the cub. Can you blame them? Yuna asked. We're strangers, aliens. They have no reason to trust us. Ray Jing, the communications officer, had joined them a few minutes ago. She was a quiet woman of 31 who spent most of her time studying alien languages and cultures. Now she was watching the Volrini with fascinated eyes. I've read every report about the Volrini, Ray said. No species has ever gotten this close to them. They don't trust anyone outside their pack. Then why did they come to us? Jiwoo asked. She was holding a medical kit, her knuckles white from gripping it so hard. Why ask for help if they won't let us help? Yuna looked at Ren. The matriarch was watching the cub with eyes full of worry. Her massive paw rested gently on the table beside her child, and every few seconds she made a soft rumbling sound. Yuna realized it was the same sound human mothers made when comforting their babies. A lullaby. "She's scared," Yuna said. "She knows her cub needs help, but she's afraid of what we might do. She's a mother trying to protect her child." The cub, whom Yuna had decided to call Kira, let out a whimper. Her swollen leg twitched, and her small body shook with pain. Ren's rumbling grew louder, more desperate. Yuna made a decision. "Everyone stay very still," she said. "I'm going to try something." "Yuna, be careful," Taiho warned, but Yuna was already moving. She walked slowly, keeping her hands visible at all times. She didn't look directly at the adult Valrani. She had read somewhere that predator species saw direct eye contact as a challenge. Instead, she kept her gaze soft, focused on the middle distance. She stopped at the supply cabinet and opened it slowly. Inside were basic medical supplies, bandages, antiseptic, and there, on the bottom shelf, a simple gel ice pack. Yuna picked it up. It was cold in her hands, the kind of cold that soothed pain and reduced swelling. Such a simple thing. Humans have used cold packs for hundreds of years. She turned back toward the examination table. The adult Valrani tensed. Low growls filled the room like approaching thunder. Ren's lips pulled back, showing teeth that could bite through steel. Yuna stopped. She held up the ice pack so everyone could see it. "This is cold," she said softly. "Cold helps pain. Cold helps swelling." She pressed the pack against her own arm, showing that it wasn't a weapon. "See? It's safe. It feels good." Ren's eyes narrowed. She looked at the ice pack, then at Yuna, then at her suffering cub. Yuna took another step. The growling grew louder. "I know you're scared," Yuna said, her voice calm and gentle. "I know you don't trust me, but your baby is hurting. I can help. Please, let me help." She was close now. Close enough to touch the examination table. Close enough that Ren could kill her with a single swipe of those massive claws. Ren didn't move. Slowly, carefully, Yuna reached out and placed the ice pack against Kira's swollen leg. The effect was immediate. Kira's eyes went wide. She let out a confused sound, something between a chirp and a meow. Her body, which had been tight with pain, suddenly relaxed. The cold was spreading through her leg, numbing the hurt, easing the swelling. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Kira began to purr. It was the most beautiful sound Yuna had ever heard. Deep and resonant, it vibrated through the floor and up through her bones. It was the sound of relief, the sound of comfort, the sound of a child finally free from pain. Ren's expression changed. The fear and anger melted away, replaced by something Yuna couldn't quite name. Wonder, maybe. Or gratitude. Then something strange happened. One of the adult Valrani, a large male with dark stripes in his silver fur, stood up. He looked at Yuna with his golden eyes and spoke. "Puffy." The word was rough, shaped by a mouth not made for human sounds. But it was unmistakably a word. Another Valrani spoke. "Puffy." Then another. And another. One by one, every Valrani in the room said the same word. "Puffy." Myre gasped. Her hand flew to her mouth, and tears appeared in her eyes. "What?" Taiho demanded. "What does that mean?" "I don't believe it," Myre whispered. "I never thought I'd hear that word. It's in the old records, the very old ones. Puffy is what Valrani say when they feel completely safe, completely loved. They only say it to pack members. To family." Yuna felt her heart skip. "Family? They're claiming us," Myre said, her voice shaking. "By saying they're Puffy, they're saying we're pack. We're family. All of us." Ren stepped forward. She towered over Yuna, so large that she blocked out the light. Yuna felt a moment of fear, but she didn't step back. The matriarch leaned down. Slowly, gently, she pressed her massive forehead against Yuna's dot. It was warm. So warm. Yuna could feel the rumble of Ren's purr through the contact, could feel the alien heartbeat that was somehow not so different from her own. "Pack," Ren said. The word was rough and broken, but it was clear. "You, Pack." Tears rolled down Yuna's cheeks. She didn't wipe them away. "Pack," she agreed. Behind her, she heard Jiwoo crying softly. Even Taiho's eyes looked suspiciously wet. And on the examination table, little Kira purred and purred, her pain forgotten. Surrounded by her pack, her old pack of Volreni and her new pack of humans, Sunho's voice came through the speaker, breaking the moment. "I don't know what just happened," he said slowly, "but I have a feeling we're going to need to make a very interesting report to Earth Command." Yuna laughed, still pressing her forehead against Ren's. Interesting was one word for it. Galaxy changing was another. 3 weeks had passed since the Ice Pack incident, and Outpost Gamma 7 had become the most famous place in the galaxy. Commander Sunho Choi stood in the communications room, reading the latest message from Earth Command. His face was the color of old paper. The message was simple, but the words seemed impossible. "What do you mean you've been adopted by apex predators? Please confirm this is not a joke. The entire Galactic Council is asking questions. Respond immediately." Sunho sighed and started typing his reply. This was the 14th message he had received today. Yesterday, there had been 22. The galaxy, it seemed, could not believe what had happened. And honestly, sometimes Sunho couldn't believe it either. He looked out the window at the common area. There, on the largest couch they had, sat Jiwoo, and on the floor beside her, taking up most of the room, lay Kira. The young Velreni's leg had healed nicely over the past weeks. The swelling was gone, and she could walk without pain. But she refused to leave Jiwoo's side. "Auntie," Kira called. She had learned several human words now, though her pronunciation was still rough. "Cold soft thing?" Jiwoo laughed and pulled out an ice pack from the basket beside her. She didn't need to give Kira ice packs anymore. The injury was healed. But Kira had decided she loved them. She loved the cold feeling. She loved the soft covering. She loved everything about them. "Here you go, little one," Jiwoo said, placing the pack against Kira's cheek. Kira purred so loudly that the couch vibrate across the room. Yuna was having a very different experience. She sat at a table with Ren, trying to communicate. It was slow work. Velreni language was complex, full of sounds that human throats couldn't make. And human language was equally strange to Velreni ears. But they were making progress. "This," Yuna said, holding up a cup. "Water, for drinking." Ren looked at the cup with curious eyes. "Water," she repeated carefully. "Yes." "Good." Ren's whiskers twitched. It was the Velreni version of a smile. "Why drink?" Ren asked. "Ice everywhere." "Eat ice." Yuna shook her head. "Humans can't eat ice. Too cold. Hurts our mouths." Ren made a sound of surprise. "Humans weak?" "In some ways, yes," Yuna admitted. "We're not strong like Velreni. We can't survive in cold. We can't fight with claws. But we have other ways to survive." "What ways?" Yuna thought for a moment. "We care for each other. We help each other. When one human is hurt, others help. When one human is cold, others share warmth. We survive together." Ren was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached out one massive paw and placed it gently on Yuna's hand. "Velreni same," she said. "Pack helps pack. Pack survives together." Yuna smiled. Maybe their species weren't so different after all. In the training room, another kind of bonding was happening. Taeho faced Voss, a young Velrani warrior with stripes like shadows across his silver fur. They had started sparring 3 days ago after Voss had watched Taeho practice his combat forms. Again, Voss said. He stood in a fighting stance, his claws carefully covered with padded gloves. Taeho circled him slowly. Voss was faster, stronger, and had better natural weapons. But Taeho had something Voss didn't expect. He feinted left, then dove right, rolling under Voss's reaching arms. He came up behind the Velrani and tapped him on the back. Got you, Taeho said. Breathing hard, Voss spun around, his eyes wide. How? I was watching. You went left. I made you think I went left, Taeho explained. It's called a feint. Humans can't win with strength, so we win with tricks. Voss sat down heavily, his tail swishing back and forth. Humans fight for fun? Not for food? Not for territory? Sometimes we fight for those things, but sometimes we fight just to practice, to get better, to test ourselves against friends. Friends fight friends? In a way, yes. It's how we show respect, how we learn from each other. Voss was quiet for a moment. Then he stood up and bowed his head slightly. Teach me, he said. Teach me human tricks. I will teach you Velrani strength. Taeho grinned. Deal. Myra spent her days recording everything. She had filled dozens of data files with observations, translations, and cultural notes. Her documentary was growing longer every day. But what fascinated her most was how quickly the two species had adapted to each other. The Velrani had discovered blankets. They loved blankets. They loved wrapping themselves in soft fabric and lying in warm piles. They called it nesting. And every night, the common area became a sea of fur and cloth. The humans had discovered that Velrani could predict weather changes. Their fur sensed pressure changes in the atmosphere, and they knew when storms were coming hours before human equipment could detect them. They were learning from each other, growing together, becoming something new. That not everyone was happy about this. Far across the galaxy, in a dark war room, the leaders of the Theric Dominion were meeting. The humans have done the impossible, said High Commander Zeth, his scaled face twisted with anger. They have tamed the Velrani. Not tamed, corrected Admiral Vera, her voice cold. Befriended. Which is worse. Much worse. For centuries, we have tried to control the Velrani, Zeth continued. We offered them treaties. We offered them territory. We showed them our strength. They rejected everything. And now these humans show up with their cold packs and their blankets. And suddenly the most dangerous species in the galaxy is calling them family. Vera slammed her fist on the table. If humanity can do this with the Velrani, what else can they do? What other species will fall under their influence? We must act, Zeth decided. We must show the galaxy that humanity is dangerous. That their kindness is just another weapon. How? Zeth smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. We attack. We destroy the outpost where this happened. We kill the humans who started this. And we show the Velrani that their new pack cannot protect them. And if the Velrani fight back? They are one small pack on a frozen moon. What can they do against our fleet? Vera nodded slowly. When do we move? Soon, Zeth said. Very soon. Back on Velroth 4, Una sat with Ren, watching the stars through the observation window. Kira was curled up nearby, sleeping with an ice pack clutched in her paws. Beautiful, Ren said, looking at the sky. Stars always beautiful. Yes, Una agreed. On Earth, where I come from, we tell stories about the stars. We imagine pictures in them. Velrani too, Ren said. Old stories. About hunters in the sky. About cubs who became stars. She pointed to a bright cluster near the horizon. That one. Story of mother who loved Cub so much, she carried Cub to sky. So Cub could see everything. Forever. Yuna felt tears prick her eyes. That's beautiful. Ren turned to look at her. You have Cub? Yuna shook her head. No, not yet. Maybe someday? Ren placed her massive paw on Yuna's shoulder. You good mother. I see it. How you care for Kira. How you care for Pac. Good mother inside you. Thank you. Yuna whispered. They sat together in comfortable silence. Two mothers from different worlds, watching the stars. Neither of them knew that danger was coming. Neither of them knew that soon they would have to fight. But when the time came, they would be ready. Because that's what Pac did. Pac protected its own. The alarms screamed through Outpost Gamma 7 like wounded animals. Taiho ran to the control room, his heart pounding. The holographic display showed something that made his blood turn cold. Ships. 12 warships, moving toward the ice moon in attack formation. They're Dominion, Sunho said, his voice flat. They've been threatening humanity for years, but they've never actually attacked. Until now. Moray's hand shook as she read the incoming message. They're demanding we surrender the Volrini. They say we've manipulated them. Brainwashed them. They want us to hand over the entire pack. And if we refuse? Jiwoo asked. She stood in the doorway, her arm around Kira. The young Varni's eyes were wide with fear. They'll destroy the station, Sunho said simply. And everyone in it. Yuna felt Ren move to stand beside her. The matriarch's fur was bristling, her claws extended. She had understood enough of the conversation to know what was happening. Pack in danger, Ren growled. Enemies coming. Yes, Yuna said. The Theric want to take you away. They want to separate us. Ren's golden eyes blazed. No, Pack stays together. Pack fights together. Sunho shook his head slowly. We can't fight them. We have one small defense system. They have 12 warships. The math doesn't work. Then we give up? Taiho's voice was hard. We just hand them over? I didn't say that. Sunho looked at the Volraini, at the humans, at the family they had become in just a few short weeks. We don't surrender. We fight with what we have. And we hope for a miracle. Ren stepped forward. She raised her head high and let out a sound that made everyone freeze. It was a howl. But not just any howl. It was deep and ancient, filled with power that seemed to shake the very walls. It went on, rising and falling like waves on a shore. And then it stopped. What was that? Jiwoo whispered. Voss answered, his voice filled with awe. That call. Old magic. Very old. Matriarch is calling to all Velrani. Everywhere in Galaxy. All Velrani? Yuna asked. Can they really hear it? That call travels through stars, Voss said. Through space that is not space. Every Velrani will hear. Every Velrani will know. Our humans are in danger. The control room fell silent. Everyone looked at Ren. Help coming, Ren said. But need time. Must fight until help arrives. Sunho straightened his shoulders. Then we fight. Everyone. Battle stations. The next hour was a blur of activity. Taiho organized the defense. The outpost had only basic weapons, energy shields that wouldn't last long against warship fire, and a single cannon that was meant for destroying asteroids. Not fighting battles, but they had something else. They had determination. Jiwoo set up the medical bay for injuries. She moved quickly, efficiently, her fear pushed down deep where it couldn't slow her down. Kira stayed close, helping in her own way, carrying supplies in her mouth. Auntie, Kira said, her voice small. Scared. Jiwoo knelt down and wrapped her arms around the young Velrani. I'm scared too, little one. But we're together. Pack protects pack. Pack protects pack, Kira repeated. Some of the fear left her eyes. Yuna and Ren worked together, coordinating the Velrani adults. They would be the last line of defense if the Theric breached the station. Their claws and teeth were better than any weapon. Myra kept recording. Her hand shook, but her camera stayed steady. If we don't survive, she said quietly, the galaxy will know what happened here. They'll know we didn't surrender. The Theric fleet reached weapons range. Attention, human outpost. The enemy commander's voice crackled through the speakers. This is High Commander Zeth of the Theric Dominion. You have 1 minute to surrender the Velrani. If you refuse, you will be destroyed. Sunho picked up the communicator. His voice was calm, steady, strong. This is Commander Sunho Choi of Outpost Gamma 7. The Velrani are not prisoners. They are not hostages. They are family. And we don't hand over family. There was silence from the Therac fleet. Then Zeth's voice came again, cold and cruel. So be it. All ships, open fire. The first shots hit the shields like hammer blows. The whole station shook. Warning lights flashed everywhere. The shield power dropped immediately, falling from 100% to 80, then 70, then 60. Shields won't last 5 minutes at this rate, Taiho reported. Returning fire. The asteroid cannon roared, sending a beam of energy toward the nearest warship. It hit the enemy shields, but didn't break through. They were simply outgunned. 50% shields, Myra called out. 45, 40. Yuna held Ren's paw. The matriarch was calm, her eyes closed, her ears twitching. They're coming, Ren whispered. Pack is coming. Almost here. 30% shields, 25. Another explosion rocked the station. A wall collapsed in the east corridor. Smoke began to fill the air. 20%, 15. Taiho fired again and again, but it wasn't enough. It would never be enough. 10% shields. Hull breach in Section 7. Jiwoo grabbed Kira and pulled her close. This was it. This was the end. 5%. And then the stars exploded. Not really. But that's what it looked like. All around the ice moon, space itself seemed to tear open. Ships poured through, hundreds of them, thousands of them. Massive Predator-class vessels, each one painted with pack symbols. Each one carrying warriors who had heard the call. The Velrani had come. All ships, a new voice boomed through every frequency. This is Fleet Alpha of the United Velrani Packs. You have attacked our family. You have threatened our cubs and their human protectors. Leave now, or we will destroy you. The Theric fleet stopped firing. On their command ship, High Commander Zeth stared at his sensors in disbelief. Impossible, he whispered. There must be 300 ships out there. 417, Admiral Vara corrected, her voice shaking. We need to retreat. Now. But it was too late. The Velrani fleet was already moving, surrounding the Theric warships like predators circling prey. Wait! Taiho's voice cut through the celebration that was starting in the outpost. We can stop them. We don't have to kill them. Everyone stared at him. They attacked us, Voss growled. Velrani law says we destroy them. Human law says we can show mercy, Taiho replied. They've lost. They know they've lost. If we destroy them, we prove that we're just as violent as they say. But if we let them go... Ren was quiet for a long moment. Then she picked up the communicator. Theric ships, she said, her rough voice carrying across space. You are defeated. You could die here. But our humans ask for mercy. Our pack chooses mercy. Leave now. Never return. And tell Galaxy what happened. Tell them what Velrani learned from humans. Tell them that kindness is strength. The Theric fleet didn't need to be told twice. They turned and ran, jumping into hyperspace as fast as their engines could take them. Silence fell over the outpost. Then Kira raised her head and spoke. "Puffy," she said. "Very, very puffy." And everyone laughed. Humans and Vilreni together, laughing and crying and holding each other. They had survived. The pack had protected its own, and the galaxy would never be the same. 6 months later, the galaxy looked very different. The new station was called Homeward. It floated in space like a giant flower, its sections spreading out in all directions. Half of it was designed for humans with warm rooms and soft beds. The other half was designed for Vilreni with wide corridors and temperature controls. In the middle, where the two halves met, was a great common area where both species lived together. Dr. Unipark walked through this common area, smiling at everything she saw. In one corner, Vilreni cubs played with human children. They chased each other around the furniture, laughing and growling and having the time of their lives. Their parents watched nearby, human mothers chatting with Vilreni matriarchs, sharing stories about their children. In another corner, Taiho was teaching a combat class. His students were both human and Vilreni, learning to fight together, to move as one unit. Voss stood beside him as co-instructor, demonstrating Vilreni techniques while Taiho showed human ones. "Remember," Taiho was saying, "strength and cleverness are not enemies. A good warrior uses both." "Yes, teacher," the students said together. Yuna smiled and kept walking. She found Jiwoo in the medical wing. But calling it a medical wing wasn't quite right anymore. It had become something more, a place where human doctors and Vilreni healers worked side by side, learning from each other. Jiwoo was examining a young Vilreni with a cough. Beside her stood an elderly Vilreni healer named Mora, who was teaching her about traditional pack medicine. Human medicine good for outside hurt, Mora was explaining. But Vilreni medicine good for inside hurt. Spirit hurt. Heart hurt. Together, we heal everything. Jiwoo nodded eagerly, taking notes on her tablet. And at Jiwoo's feet, as always, lay Kira. But Kira wasn't a cub anymore. In 6 months, she had grown to the size of a tiger, with sleek silver fur and bright green eyes. She was beautiful and strong and fierce, but she still followed Jiwoo everywhere. And she still loved ice packs. "Auntie," Kira said, lifting her head. "Important humans coming today. Nervous ones. From far away." Jiwoo smiled and scratched behind Kira's ears. "Yes, the diplomatic delegation. They want to learn how we did it. How we became pack with the Vilreni." "I tell them," Kira said proudly. "Human put cold soft thing on leg. Made pain go away. Made everything good." "That's right," Jiwoo laughed. "Sometimes the biggest changes start with the smallest kindness." Yuna found her way to the observation deck, where Mireille was setting up for her documentary screening. The film was called The Pack That Chose Us, and it had become the most watched piece of media in galactic history. Every species in every system had seen it. "Ready?" Yuna asked. Mireille nodded, but there was worry in her eyes. "The delegation arrives in an hour. They're nervous. Some of them have never met a Vilreni before. They have nothing to fear. I know that. You know that. But they've spent centuries being told that Vilreni are monsters, that they're untamable, that they'll kill anything that gets too close." Yuna looked out the window at the stars. "Then we show them the truth." The delegation arrived exactly on time. There were 12 of them, representatives from different species across the galaxy. They came in peace, but their eyes were full of fear. They expected warriors. They expected to be intimidated and threatened. What they found was a party. Vilreni cubs were wearing flower necklaces that human children had made for them. Adult Vilreni were offering blankets to anyone who looked cold. Food was being served. A strange mix of human and Velrani dishes that somehow worked together perfectly. One of the delegates, a tall creature with blue skin and too many eyes, stared at the scene with his mouth open. "I don't understand," he said. "The report said Velrani were dangerous, violent, impossible to approach." "They are dangerous," Yuna said, appearing beside him. "When their pack is threatened, they are the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. But so are we. So is anyone who loves their family." The delegate shook his head slowly. "But how? How did you do this?" "We tried for centuries. We offered them everything: treaties, territory, power." Yuna smiled. "We didn't offer them anything. We just helped a hurt child. That's all. We saw someone in pain, and we made the pain stop. That's it?" "That's it." Yuna put her hand on the delegate's arm. "You tried to buy their loyalty. We earned their trust. You tried to impress them with strength. We impressed them with kindness. You saw them as aliens. We saw them as family." Ren appeared behind Yuna, towering over both of them. The delegate flinched backward, his fear obvious, but Ren didn't attack. Instead, she held out one massive paw, and it was a blanket, soft and warm. "Welcome," Ren said, her voice rough but gentle. "You are cold. This helps. You are scared. We understand. But here, you are safe. You are potentially Puffy." The delegate stared at the blanket, then at Ren, then at Yuna. "Potentially Puffy?" he asked weakly. Yuna grinned. "It means she's willing to let you become family. It's the highest honor a Velrani can give." Slowly, carefully, the delegate reached out and took the blanket. He wrapped it around his shoulders. It was warm. It was soft. It was the most comforting thing he had ever felt. "Thank you," he said. "Family," Ren said simply. "Pack helps pack." The screening of the documentary happened that evening. Everyone gathered in the main viewing room, humans and Velrani and delegates all sitting together. Some of the Velrani cubs fell asleep in their human friends' laps. Some of the delegates found themselves sharing blankets with creatures they had feared their whole lives. And on the screen, Moray's voice told the story. "The galaxy expected humanity to conquer through force," she narrated. "They never imagined we would conquer through ice packs and kindness. They called the Velrani untamable. But we never tried to tame them. We just cared. And sometimes, that is all it takes. One small act of compassion. One cold pack on a hurt leg. One moment of choosing gentleness over fear." Images flashed across the screen. Yuna placing the ice pack on Kira's leg. The first time a Velrani said, "Puffy." The battle where the packs came to save their humans. And finally, the station they had built together, this beautiful place called Homeward. "That is how humanity found its place among the stars," Myray continued. "Not as conquerors, not as warriors, but as family, as pack. The Velrani taught us that true strength comes from protecting those you love. And we taught them that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is be gentle." The documentary ended with a shot of Kira, now fully grown, curled up at Jiwoo's feet with an ice pack pressed against her cheek. "Puffy," Kira said on screen, her green eyes half closed with contentment. "Very puffy." The lights came up. For a moment, there was silence. Then one of the delegates stood up. Then another. Then all of them. "Puffy," the blue-skinned delegate said, wrapping his blanket tighter around his shoulders. "I think I understand now. I am Puffy." And around the room, in a dozen different languages, in 100 different ways, everyone agreed that they were Puffy. They were family. They were packed and together. They would face whatever the galaxy had waiting for them, because that was what Pack did. Pack protected its own always forever. The end.